But you celebrated your 5th anniversary for Square Donut in March.
Correct.
Incredible accomplishment. I mean, you guys opened during the pandemic. Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and I've said it many times before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm just not much of a donut person. Donuts are delicious, don't get me wrong, but for me, the balance of like calories and sugar versus how much I have to exercise to work that off, the balance is just usually not there for me. But there is one donut shop that I've found there's an exception for, and that is Square Donut. These things are just so delicious. I'm just like, I don't care if I'm on the elliptical for an extra half hour today. These next 2 minutes of enjoying this donut are worth it. So I got to talk with the people who bring this thing to life. Elizabeth Pooley, you have been on the podcast before. It's a couple of years ago, so we need to update the story. And now we get your son, Jack. He's joining us today. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having us.
And you just celebrated your 5th anniversary. Well, I guess not just, but you celebrated your 5th anniversary for Square Donut in March.
Correct.
Incredible accomplishment. I mean, you guys opened during the pandemic. So much has happened in that time. Elizabeth, you've told me even like when we recorded that first podcast, I think that was in 2021, maybe even 2022, just like your life was in a million different places at once. Now that things are more stable and you have, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to reflect, I guess, but when you think about 5 years ago and what has transpired in that time, like what emotions do you feel? What comes to the front of your mind?
I know Jack's grinning because I have to preface this answer with the fact that working with my son versus just being a mom, it's different. I have to put my mom cap on sometimes for certain things, but he also, because he works with me, he does see the ugly, which normally you'd protect your kids from your work day or whatever. But he does see both sides. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, Jack, but the emotions involved, and Jack can attest to this. You know, I'm flying high one day. I've got, ideas just rolling off the tongue and notebooks of paper, and I want to do this, and I'm sending texts, and I just feel so elated and so blessed and so grateful. And I know on those days I'm in my realm. I'm doing what God wants me to do. That's my gift, and I'm right where I need to be. And then there's other days where I just look at Jack and I'm like, I just want to sell. I just want to quit. I mean, I'm just in tears and I'm screaming and crying and I'm frustrated and thank goodness in this particular situation, Jack's disposition works well with mine. I'm very reactive and he's very calm and reflective. He observes a lot, doesn't speak a lot. He listens a lot. So it's a good match for that. But the emotions are definitely roller coaster, as I think any entrepreneur would attest to, truly. So some days it's a dumpster fire and some days it's great.
Well, I mean, just as an example, as we're recording this, Block 16, which is one of those popular restaurants in Omaha, last night they posted on their social media that their hood went out.
Yeah.
After 15 years of being open, it's done. So they can only make like 5 or 6 items today, and they know that there are going to be people coming into that shop who are going to be upset that they can't have a burger or fries, and it's just like, there's nothing you can do. As a small business owner, there's literally nothing you can do. I mean, you have to find the funds to replace stuff, but then it just requires time. And that's just one example. I mean, there's so many things that hit you during the day. I think I would probably be on your end of it, Elizabeth, where my emotions would just be up and down. Sometimes I'm just super happy. I'm like, let's make some donuts. And some days I'm just like, let's burn this place down.
Yes, so, that's me in a nutshell.
Jack, I know part of it is probably just naturally how you were created, but like what gives you just that calm disposition that allows you guys to have that balance in the shop?
I think it's just kind of the way I am and how I was kind of raised and grown up, because prior to being with Square Donut, the only side of her I saw was, the calm mom side. Everything's under control. It's all peachy, even if it wasn't. So I think that has helped a lot, and just myself knowing that, emotions aren't really a great way to make decisions, sometimes at least.
Write that down. That is very true.
But yeah, so I think that's where I get it from.
How is you guys' relationship when you look back on the last 5 years, now that you're working together? How has your relationship changed?
From my perspective, there's that's a really good question, Dan, because there's a lot more guilt on my end. I feel like, am I forcing my son into an industry or a career or this business where I've preached to my kids my whole life, you go do your own thing. Don't ever follow my path if you don't want to. You don't have to take on my belief system or what I feel. I've raised them to be their own individuals. And so for him to be with me, I question it daily. I'm like, are you sure you want to do this? I mean, I don't want to force you. You can walk away anytime and I'll be totally fine. So there's a little bit of guilt, but also a big learning curve for me is looking at Jack and trying, as a mother, I look at him and I always see my toddler. I always see my little boy, right? But as a man, if I just shut my mouth long enough, he is an incredible businessman already. And he's an incredible human being. And what I like most about Jack and what I've learned most about Jack is he can be very professional and very empathetic at the same time, but not let those emotions and that empathy drive his business decisions. And I don't have that gift. So guilt, pride, and awe. I'm really proud of Jack.
Jack, you were in Shanghai.
Yes.
Like when, and we'll get into the whole backstory, but when your mom purchased the recipes and the equipment and decided she was going to open a donut shop, what were you doing out there, and what went into your decision to come back and join in the business?
So at the time, that would have been like late 2018, early 2019.
Yeah.
That's when, she was just kind of texting me, hey, I think I'm going to buy this donut shop and stuff. But at the time, I was in Shanghai, going there for school. I was, that would have been my freshman year. I was taking a physics course there. The plan was to be some sort of engineer in the science fields coming out of high school. But once I got there and I was taking classes, I kind of just felt that even though I enjoy, science and that sort of thing, the career field itself wasn't something I wanted to do long term. So at the time, I wasn't 100% on with Square Donut, but it was an option, but I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted to do. So I dropped out and came home, and she hates that word.
Yeah, there's a stigma, coming from my generation. We were always, even though hardly any of us, in my circle could afford to go to college, there was that insecurity of, well, I didn't go, so you should go. I don't feel that way anymore, obviously, but yeah, I didn't like that word dropout.
No, she hated it.
But I also know that kids at that age are under a lot of pressure to figure out what they want to do with their life, and I know that's not even a reality.
Yeah, so I came home, took a couple months off just doing whatever, and then kind of was not her right-hand man at the time, but was in on everything going on with Square Donut and getting that opened. And yeah, I just kind of got that itch for business, so to speak. And yeah, I was like, I'm in. I want to do this. And started off as a baker pretty much the first year or two. That was all I was doing. Not really a whole lot as far as like actual business decisions and management and that sort of stuff.
You were kind of my little foot soldier. You said something to me that scared me. And before he came home, from China, I was trying to convince him to stay and not quit. And he said, you know, Mom, there's really, in the world of business, there's really nothing I can learn that I can't learn from you. And I thought, oh, no. So you can be my mentor. And you do have that glimmer of, oh, that feels good. But the reality of it is, no, that's not right. You need to go work for other people. So when he said that, though, so when he came back, he was a little foot soldier and, you know, helped me with a lot of things, and then just evolved that making sure your interest was legit.
Yep.
Before I felt comfortable really pulling him in and putting that responsibility on him that I would normally put on an employee. And he's been great.
Well, and I think, you know, in just one of those little, you know, God had this plan in place because you have a very analytical mind. That's perfect for being a baker because you have to have those measurements exact when you figure out those recipes. You guys allowed me to come in one morning and make donuts with you. I mean, everything is so precise, and then something has to rest on the bench for 30 minutes, and then it has to, you know, be rolled out to this thickness, and then it has to be cut, and then it has to be proofed in this proofer. Like, there's so many people think, oh, donuts, yeah, that must be easy to make. No, there were so many steps, so many scientific things in just making that one donut, much less, you know, cake donuts or vegan donuts, any other type of donut you guys make. I was just like blown away, and I came in knowing that it was going to be a lot, and I was just like, whew. It's basically like it's legitimately science.
Yep.
So yeah, I think it was lucky that you were able to come in and at the beginning kind of set some of those processes in place because I assume that was a lot.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on one of our biggest obstacles in this market, not just in Omaha, but I'm sure anywhere. But there is a misconception when you do compare a place like Square Donut to Dunkin', where Dunkin' ships in cases and cases of frozen donuts, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we don't do that. So there's a massive misconception where customers will come in and we will be sold out, and they're very angry. They're like, you're a donut shop and you're out of donuts. If they only knew, Dan. If they only knew the back end. And I don't fault them for that. I just try and educate them. And for you to be so analytical in that, I don't have the patience for that. I'm the visionary. I want to just here's my vision. Jack, go make it happen.
Yep.
You know, so I love the fact that you're analytical and you can go in with that science mind.
Yep.
So,
well, I'm really glad that you brought that up, Elizabeth, because I was going to give you the opportunity to kind of talk about that later, but since we're here, let's just do it now. When people get frustrated that donuts are sold out, I think it's similar to when someone goes to a barbecue place and, oh, we don't have any more brisket today. And they're like, well, make some more. I'm here. And it's just like, well, our brisket smokes for 14 hours. If you want to come back in 14 hours, we'll have some brisket for you. And it's obviously donuts don't take that long,
right.
But like, I was just there for part of the process that one morning, and I think I was there for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and that was just one donut that you guys were making, not talking about all the other donuts. I mean, you're getting in at 3, 4 in the morning to make these things. You can't just – it's not Dunkin' Donuts. You can't pull another one out of the freezer. You can't take a Wendy's hamburger patty and just toss it on the griddle and have it ready in 5 minutes. This is a process, so – Is there anything else that you guys just want to say in regards to that to help people have a better understanding?
I'm sure you have a lot to say. The first thing I would say is I can do that. If people really want, which I get, less expensive donuts, I can change my process to meet their budgets. If they want, lower quality, not high-grade ingredients, I can do that. But then why am I in business? Then I'm not happy. And I created this business, to be able to share, my ideals and my values of what I think a good product is, what good service is, what good hospitality is, so I can share that with the world. And it won't always align with other people's budgets or their beliefs, but this is how I'm going to do mine. So although I understand where they're coming from 100%, we don't know what we don't know. I also, for lack of a better way to say it, I guess I don't care because I know what my job is. I'm very secure in what I have and what I'm making and what I'm delivering. And we all have choices to make, and they could choose not to come to Square Donut anymore. And I would understand that if it's sold out or too expensive. But by the same token, Dan, I'm not going to change what I do for somebody else. Mm-hmm. I want to keep my mission and keep my values at core. I'm helping employees develop themselves. I'm educating customers. I've had thousands of people say the hospitality at Square Donut is second to none. They feel like family. And I've said this at the other podcast too. It's not always about the donut. It's about us. It's about we. And that's how I feel about it, I guess. And I don't know. You're going to come at it from a totally different.
Yeah, donuts, especially fresh donuts, are a par-based business. Like you said, with barbecue, I know there's.
And when you say par-based, that means like you have to determine what you're making ahead of time.
Yeah, so like for us, we have this big long Excel spreadsheet of how many donuts we've made every day and what's been left over, and we compile all that information to give us, averages and stuff. So any given Wednesday, we can say, oh, we do, 60 dozen donuts that day, and on most Wednesdays we have a dozen left at the end of the day. But yeah, so I think a lot of people, especially considering, the big names in the donut industry being Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme, where their production is throughout their entire hours, versus more of your local donut shops are going to be just in the morning or at night for that next day. And I think people don't really understand that as much compared to like a barbecue place, or I know pizza places will do pars and stuff. So
yeah, anything with fresh dough is par based. I've heard a lot of local, some of our favorite pizza places like Virtuoso
sells out every Saturday, and people get so mad.
I see them online,
angry.
And I'm like,
I
don't blame them.
We understand dough. You cannot predict. We cannot predict if we do 75 pounds one day, and Joe Smith comes in and says, I really need 5 dozen for this meeting, and I forgot all about it. Well, we can't predict that, and then the next Thursday Joe doesn't come in, so we can't predict that.
You cannot conjure dough out of thin air, and you cannot, unless you're using a bunch of nasty preservatives and stuff, you cannot keep it fresh for the next day. So I think that's something that someone else might say well, if you're going to sell out of donuts, just make more.
Yeah.
But
I just smile.
But you guys are, because you are committed to having a fresh quality product, you're not going to keep those for the next day. You've got to make another batch. So if you make a bunch and all of a sudden it is a slow day and people don't buy them, well, all of a sudden we wasted a bunch of money and a bunch of time on ingredients and manpower and labor for donuts that we didn't end up needing, that I'm sure you guys donate them somewhere or something. They're not totally going to waste, but you're not profiting off that. That's how businesses fail.
Yep.
Exactly. So we choose, do we want to
be better, people?
do we want to stay open, or do we want another business in Omaha to close? And it's not always a popular choice, and sometimes we have to be the bad guys. Yep. But we're open, and we're employing people.
Yeah, and I think that's not a misconception, but a misunderstanding. Is we've talked about this. For us, Square Donut wasn't so much about like buying a job for me and Elizabeth. It's a business.
It's weird hearing you call me Elizabeth, but I get it.
Because, if we said, screw the employees, we want to make as much money as possible, it would just be me and her in the business making dough, throughout the day. And we could fulfill those needs, but at the same time, that's not how we view Square Donut, and that's not what we want to do with the business. We want to grow it. We want to employ people. We want to create jobs. And that's kind of the ultimate goal versus just being like a single location mom and pop business, so to speak.
We're still owner operated. We're still family owned, owner operated. We're still going to be in the mix every single day, no matter how big we get. But I never opened businesses thinking, I just want this to be my job. I want to grow it so that I can step back and share this vision.
Yeah.
So,
because I like making donuts, but I don't like it so much to where that's the only thing I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
All right, we've been talking for about 20 minutes now, and we've had some great conversations about business and relationships and everything. We haven't talked at all about donuts.
Right.
I guess we've talked a little bit about donuts, but anyway, just in case someone is listening to this and somehow they haven't been to Square Donut yet, Elizabeth, I got your answer on the previous podcast. I'm going to ask you, Jack, other than the shape of the donuts, obviously you guys' donuts are, surprise, surprise, square. What is it about Square Donut that you feel separates it from any other donut that somebody's going to find in Omaha or even in the Midwest?
I would say that because of the way we make them and our processes do differ from the average, donut recipe, so to speak. I think our donuts are just a little bit softer. They kind of last more throughout the day. If you come in at 6 a.m. and you don't eat them till 8 p.m., I think they're still going to be a very great donut in that time frame. So I think that helps us a lot with just the quality of the dough itself, but then also we really try to not have a donut that's overbearing as far as like it just being a sugar coma,
Right.
Which, not to knock donut shops that do that, but yeah, if you go to like, Hy-Vee or Walmart's and get donuts off the shelf there, a lot of them are very, very sugary. And I know she's said this multiple times. She doesn't really care for sugar. I care for it a little bit more, but still not that much. So we kind of try to keep it more level when it comes to our flavor profiles and stuff like that.
More flavor, not so much sugar.
Yeah.
More flavor profiles, and keeping a cap on that sugar coma where you want to brush your teeth.
Yep.
I don't like that.
So I found a quote from you. I believe this was in Edge magazine, Elizabeth, and you touched on this a little bit earlier, but you said there's so much behind this donut. There's a relationship. And yes, customer service is a huge part, but I think a lot of people, when they think of customer service in the food industry, they're thinking of in a sit-down restaurant, especially a nicer restaurant where you're going to be there for an hour, hour and a half. The waiter's going to touch the table several times. You might even interact with the chef. You're going to interact with several front of house people. With a donut shop, somebody could come in and be in and out in 2 minutes. They could come in, look through the case, say, okay, give me two of those, boom, pay, I'm gone. That's such a limited interaction, but you have placed, so like, you don't have to, as a donut shop, in theory, place as much emphasis on customer service, because it's like, well, that interaction is going to be so quick, the person is thinking more about the product itself. Why do you think about Square Donut in terms of a relationship and valuing that customer service aspect so much?
To me, so there's a big difference between service and hospitality. So in my mind, service is transactional. Service is you come in, you're picking out your donuts, you're paying for your donuts, we put them in a box and we give them to you. That's service. It's a transaction. You're getting something, we're getting something, and we exchange. Hospitality, for me, is completely different. So while you're making this transaction, I need to capture, know, and kind of analyze what is the emotion behind this. Because at the end of the day, if we are all going to get compared in our businesses, if you go into 10 different businesses that day, of those 10 businesses, which one do you remember and why? It's not always going to be about the donut or the taco or the brisket. How did that human being across from that counter make you feel? And you see all the complaints on Google, people call in, oh, I was treated like crap, or this manager didn't care that I had a hair in my food, or you get all these Google and especially social media. You hear it all over social media. Did you go talk to the manager? I have enough foresight, and it's important enough to me to look ahead and try and prevent that, number one, to begin with. And number two, all my employees, front-facing, customer-facing, are all trained, and they have a toolkit. What do we do if? But the number one thing I teach my front-facing employees is every single person that walks through that door, if you could just have a bubble above their head, maybe their spouse died, their dog died, their kid died, they just got in a car accident, they lost their house. Maybe it's something where you and I don't think it's important, but maybe this lady spilled coffee on her blouse and she had to go home, and it was her favorite blouse, and she was going to do a podcast, and it meant a lot to her. We're driving around, we're walking around, we're doing all these service transactions. Where is the humanity? I guess. So it sounds really deep, and it is really deep, but it's very important, especially in a digitalized world. So when my team knows when you walk in that door, no matter what, if you're happy, sad, mad, grumpy, if you say something mean, if you say something nice, we need to be able to absorb that, and we need to be able to do the right thing with that through hospitality. You have to know we're going to be kind and we care. We may not always be able to solve the problem, but we're sure going to find a way to try and do it. And sometimes that trickles down to me, and I have to handle something, and I will do it with as much grace as I've been given from my creator. Mm-hmm. So that's hospitality.
I mean, you talk about that human element. You can turn someone's day around in a 2-minute interaction. That doesn't mean like the burden is on all your employees. Like, hey, if somebody comes in a bad mood, they better be leaving with a smile. Obviously, it doesn't work like that. But I've had interactions, whether it's in the grocery store checkout lane or getting takeout from a restaurant or something, where I'm in a bad mood. I'm not having a good day, whatever it might be, and to have a good interaction with someone and then to get a fantastic product on top of that, it can be a world of difference. And I mean, just from a human element, that's a good thing, but also from a business element, that's a good thing. Because like you said, if I'm evaluating my options of what I'm going to choose as a consumer, if the product is relatively even, which I would say yours is a bit higher anyway, but that's notwithstanding, I'm going to think about which one made me feel the best. And if it is that one with the better customer service, guess where I'm going? Back there.
People don't remember a lot, but they remember how you made them feel. End of the day, professionally or personally. And like you said, if there is competition, which competition is fantastic, I love competition, but how do I be different? So I'm just bringing in my personal beliefs into the business in that regard. And I think, and our cashiers have even said, we've had people coming in there crying. They'll share with our cashiers their stories. We've had people coming in there elated and sharing a story with their child when they had a birthday donut, and they come back and they report. It is so cool. It feels so good to hear those stories. And it reminds me of, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing the right thing. So, yeah.
All that being said, for all the flowers and rainbows we just talked about customer service, it was a donut itself that got you into this.
Yeah.
Yep.
So take me back to D2 Donuts.
Yep.
This was a business in Alabama.
Yep.
You were visiting your daughter. She was going to Auburn at the time. And like Jack said, you are someone who's put it out there pretty publicly, not a sweets person, don't really eat a ton of donuts outside of business, research, all that. What was it about that donut that just captured you?
I will never forget that day because the rental car was packed up with my daughter's stuff. We were at her friend's house at the time, and he had said, I'm going to make you guys breakfast before you hit the road. And I'm thinking, okay. And we're sitting there, and then he goes, oh, I forgot something. I'll be right back. And he leaves the house. And I'm like, I'm in a hurry. What is this, Maddie? And I was asking Maddie, and she goes, I don't know. He comes back and puts this box of donuts on the table and opens them up, and ever all polite, I'm like, oh, that was really kind, thank you. And he goes, yeah, eat up, And it's, again, a donut. And I'm thinking, I don't do well with sugar, but I took one. And Dan, honestly, the minute I bit into that, it was just a glazed raised donut. And it's pretty hard to impress me, a little bit of a food snob. I smashed that donut. I think I ate at least 3 more, if not 4 more. I couldn't believe this. And I made the comment, where has this donut shop been all these 4 years that my daughter was at college? And he said, it's just a mom and pop donut shop. And kind of hidden, tucked away. Doesn't get a lot of, public view. And I said, these are the best donut I've ever had. So we went home. And we drove back to Nebraska. And, a couple months later, he texted me and said, that guy's selling his donut shop. Because he knows I'm a business person, and I was looking for another business to start. I've never bought anything. I've always started my own. And I was like, I don't want a donut shop. That's overnight, middle of the night. That's labor. I don't want that. So I told him thanks, but no thanks. And he just kind of, not impolitely, he kind of kept asking me, and he kind of kept texting me. And then one day he said, well, here's his number just in case. Well, I had to call him. And then we had a little chat, the owner and I said, look, I'm really not interested, but I would like to just come down and take a look. I don't want to say no completely without knowing what I'm doing. And then it just snowballed.
So you made a dozen trips, actually, to Alabama.
Well, I made several, but I only learned how to make the donuts in 3 shifts.
Well, yes, because at first, and again, I think this was in Edge magazine.
Mm-hmm.
You said the first few visits were supposed to validate all the reasons why I didn't want a donut shop. But then I started to slowly wrap my head around it. So what was it about those early trips that helped you overcome that mental barrier?
First of all, Dennis, who was the owner, it's really tough when you have a personality like Dennis's because he's so honest and he puts it out there, but yet he's so convincing. And so our personalities right away just clicked. And we just had a lot of things in common. And when I went down there to say, no, yep, I'm right, I kept thinking, he's got such a phenomenal product. This is so unfair that his product is better than anything I've tasted nationally, locally. I have to do something with this. And then it just started forming, and I thought, I could bring this to Omaha, and here's what I could do with it. I could really make this a big thing because I'm a marketing branding girl. It's not necessarily about the product. It's how can I make this really cool? And that's when I started getting excited. And then the little guy on my shoulder here is like, no, it's too much work. And then there's like, no, but I really want to brand this. I want to get my hands on this. And it was a battle. And at the end of the day, I just felt God nudging me. He's like, I know you don't want this. I know it's a lot of work, but Elizabeth, trust me, just do it. And then I just stopped thinking and did it. And everything was, it was just robotic. There was almost no thought after that. It was just, I'm going to do this. And how am I going to do it? Where am I going to do it? And start solving problems. It was exciting, but scary.
Jack, you're halfway around the world as all this is going down. What do you remember about that time period, and specifically when your mom first, I don't know if you guys, called, texted, whatever it was, and is like, hey, I'm thinking about opening a donut shop?
I was a little taken aback.
It wasn't in my wheelhouse, was it?
No, definitely not something I could have ever seen coming. That's for sure. Especially considering her past businesses. Like, she has experience in the restaurant industry before, but not on like the ownership side of it. And yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, that's odd. And then when she texted me, she's like, I'm thinking about doing this. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I got, classes to go to and stuff,
Cool, Mom.
Let me know, I didn't think it was really like going to happen at the time. And then when it did, I was like, well, I could see how that works. I could, with her spin on it, I'm like, it'll probably work out. So yeah. And then, decided I didn't want to go to college anymore and came home. And then I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
It's fun. I always use the term Elizabethize things. Mm-hmm. And it is hard for loved ones of an entrepreneur because our brains are constantly going. So they hear a lot of ideas and pitches and this, and we go in so many different directions. And it's very difficult to live with somebody like that because it's constant, it's exhausting. But I think they can recognize at some point, like Jack did, oh, okay, well, if this one's going to stick, then then let's jump in. So, yeah.
Well, you talk about that brain always working, and that's what was interesting was Dennis was trying to sell you D2 donuts, and you said, not interested in the business, but the recipe and the equipment, that I'm interested in. And that's what you ended up purchasing. Mm-hmm. What, as you were thinking about what you wanted to turn this business into, what were some of like the tentpole ideas where, like we've talked about customer service, that obviously was going to be a huge part of it. What were some of like the things where you were like, this is how I'm going to transform this business. This is how I'm going to put my Elizabeth stamp on what was a previous business?
That usually after I commit to something or make the decision or jump off that bridge, it's nonstop. So the first thing I looked at is that donut. And I was thinking, what is the logo? What is the colors? And I buy with my eyes. And I like movement. I don't like a lot of still shot pictures when I'm buying something. I like to see. I like to feel. I want to be interactive. And so logo, colors, and how can I get people in Omaha? How can I get them to me? Because they're not going to know me. It's just another donut shop. How can I be so different? And it literally started with that. I'm going to take a simple donut, and I'm going to have this massive, cool logo and these beautiful colors, and it's going to start with the dining room. It's going to start with the customer walking in, and because they're not going to see the donuts first. They're going to walk in, and they're going to see the dining room. Then they get to the donut case, and so I need to wow them there. How am I going to do that? I want bizarre donuts. I want like stuff you never think of course. Hence the DOMs and putting my spin on
Donuts
things.
of the month.
Yep. And then they've got the atmosphere. They've got the donut case. Now how can I zing them? I'm going to zing them with the hospitality. So it's just something in me, Dan. I don't know what it is, but it's probably overcompensation from childhood trauma. I don't know. I just want to be the best at whatever I choose to do. I used to clean toilets at John Deere. I'm going to be the best person there cleaning those bathrooms. I don't care what it is. I don't care what job I've got. I'm going to be the best. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's what I come into it with.
Well, I also, let's be completely honest. The shape of the product is not hurting you.
No.
Because whether somebody walks into their office and there's a box of donuts, on the break room table, or they see a picture in Omaha Food Lovers or anything, they don't have to be actively seeking out your business. But as soon as they see the square donut, they're like, what is this? Mm-hmm. All donuts are circle. Why is this a square? So immediately you have that visual hook, but so you're memorable. But yeah, when you talk about creating that experience when someone walks into the shop, when you rented whatever, when you decided on that space, mm-hmm. it was nothing. It was
Literally.
just I think you even described it as like a gray box. How did you create this experience? Make this, like, people wouldn't think of a dining room in a donut shop. You know, how did you create that dining room to say this is going to be more than somebody just coming in, paying for donuts and leaving, but we're going to kind of like wow them in here?
There's two things that comes from. What do I not want it to be? So if you compare all the donut shops we've grown up with, that I grew up with, Donut Stop downtown, all the 60s, 70s, and 80s donut shops, you think of the orange, the brown, the yellow, the dull. I mean, there's nothing in there. The donuts were probably amazing. And again, I base everything off emotions and feelings, and so I knew what I didn't want. So that was a good starting point, and this space had no plumbing, no electrical. It was literally a gray box. So I obviously had to start with the kitchen and figure out, if my baker is standing here, where does he need to be to wash his hands? Because I'd never designed a restaurant before, ever. And the architect that I had at the time could help me with some things, but they didn't know what my flow needed to be. So in those 3 shifts I had with Dennis, I tried to remember, first of all, what's the main flow, and then where am I going to put sinks, and where am I going to put paper towels? And then I came to the dining room, and I have a passion for interior design. I'm addicted to interior design, coming again from emotions and feelings and how a person feels. And I just wanted that dining room for a donut shop to be as inviting as possible. And also the color. I needed to figure out, in Omaha, of all the competition, what colors were not being used, because I'm not going to use their colors. So, and pink was my least favorite color at the time. I did not like the color pink, and I'm like, here I am, it's pink. I've grown to love it.
You've been forced into liking it now.
I am. So, and I was a little worried in the beginning because of my whole vision of this outside and this inside, pink and black, and I was, anybody from anywhere knows, any female knows, pink and black is Victoria's Secret. And I thought, no, I don't want to be associated with Victoria's Secret. So I took the pinstripes away from the awnings and just made them solid colors. I redid, I don't know how many iterations of the donut box we went through, not to make it look like Victoria's Secret. But I just ate that up. I love that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I figure it out along the way. And I start with something what I don't want, and it helps me to go in the direction of what I do want. So,
all right, so you build it out, you get it to what you do want. You guys have your soft opening in the March of 2020, and then the whole world shuts down. And Elizabeth, you told me previously the first year of Square Donut being open was tumultuous and devastating. Not to bring up bad vibes, but I want you guys to peel back the curtain for people. Like, take us back to that time. What were you going through?
I love that I'll be able to list this out, and then you can always put your thing on it, because it was, I've told a lot of people many times, I try not to look back, because I don't know. There's a lot of reasons for that. But so we had our soft opening in March of 2020. And then after a soft opening, you usually close so that you can get things going and open. And that was in between that time that the COVID mandates hit Nebraska. And I got emails and letters, and I'm scared. They're telling me that either I can't open, or they have to, if I have a customer in there, they have to be in and out in 10 minutes or less. Well, that's not what my business is based off of. And I couldn't just not reopen. I was too desperate. I had everything in this. I didn't have a penny to my name. I couldn't eat if I didn't reopen. So I cried and prayed and said, okay, we're gonna develop 5 boxes. We're gonna do a glazed, we're gonna do a variety, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And they're gonna come in, they're gonna pick their box. They cannot pick their donuts. They're just pre-put together boxes. Here's the price, in and out, boom, boom, boom. And I already knew it was going to be hated. I knew it, but I didn't have a choice. And it turned out to be wildly popular. so popular that when the mandates lifted and we went to the case donuts, customers emailing, texting, messaging, please go back to the boxes. That part was challenging. I just didn't know what I was doing. The employees were a mess. Customers were a mess. Everybody was an emotional dumpster fire. So I'm trying to manage all these personalities and this stress and this fear and still be successful. So mentally, I had a lot of mental fatigue. And then after I opened, my mother, I didn't know this at the time, but the ambulance had been called and they had to revive her on the gurney and then take her to ICU. It was not COVID related, but she was in the ICU for months and months. She was on a paralytic. She was unconscious. And I don't even know what happened. Like, my cousin had to tell me, none of us knew which hospital she went to. We just knew she was in the hospital. So I had to call all these hospitals and figure out where's my mom. And once I figured that out, they said, you can't come in. And I'm like, well, great. And then there's her apartment and her finances. So I had to get into her apartment and pay her bills because I didn't know what was going on. I had to get all her, Social Security card and stuff at my house so I could start communicating with bill collectors and whatnot. And that was awful. They tried 2 times to get her off the ventilator, unsuccessfully. And then when she finally did make it to Madonna for recovery, the one night in that whole year I chose to turn my phone off, she went back into the ER. And so in the morning when I turned it on, I had 6 calls from the doctor and I had all these calls. And the guilt was incredible. I was like, I failed my mom. She's dying. And the doctor called and said, we're going to try one more time. This was probably, I don't know if this was pre-Madonna or post-Madonna. It all gets jumbled. They tried the 3rd time to take her off the ventilator, or they put her back on when they put her in the ER. And they said, look, Elizabeth, this, I'm just letting you know, prepare. The odds of her making it through this are not good. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I want to be a realist. And that's what the doctor said. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. My mom's going to pass. I got to do this. That whole time she was in ICU in Madonna, we had a house fire. And the main part that got affected was my office at the house. So all my D2, my square donut, my mom's stuff. He was sleeping at the time. I was at the shop.
Yep. Because I was in the morning. I just got home from work. You
just got done the overnight shift from making the donuts.
Yep.
Heard glass breaking. You were confused.
Yep. I thought somebody was breaking in the house.
And you opened your door. Oh, the house was in flames.
Yep.
The firefighters couldn't find our house. Construction workers from Westview High School were up on a
scaffolding
or something.
And they literally
heard the explosion. Scaled all the fences in our neighborhood. Got the little garden hose, jumped through my office window, and was trying to save all my documents. They obviously saw all my documents there. And they saved my documents. Mm-hmm. And then the fire crew showed up, and, that happened. And then my dog, my sweet dog, Fly, died after 17 years. Had to put her down. And then I was in the ER twice for dehydration and exhaustion. And I'm sure there was something else in there, too. Are you getting teary-eyed?
A little bit.
It was hard.
Even just one of those things happening to a person is enough to bring them to their knees, usually. To hear them all listed out like that, one after another, I cannot believe you guys are, like, standing today.
I know, and I don't know how we are.
Yep.
High five, Jack.
Made it through.
You're a stud. I don't know it's God, Dan. That's all I can say, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to fix my mom or fix the fire or fix the business, or I had to be really nice to the employees because I didn't want them to quit on me. And I miss my dog, and it's a lot. That's why I don't look back very often. But once in a while, looking back, wow.
Yep.
It sounds more real when we say it out loud.
Yep, it does.
That's bizarre. That's a moment.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take you back to a
This is a reminder that we've got this, isn't it, Jack? We got this.
Makes you feel a little bit better about the current state.
Yeah, that was a good reminder.
So obviously all that stuff is going on, and you've got the pandemic on top of everything. You're just trying to figure out, how the heck am I supposed to be a donut shop owner just on the business side of things, regardless of how I'm going to balance my personal life with all this? When did it, and it's so hard to remember because, like, with COVID, things would open back up a little bit, and then they'd close back down, and then open up, and then, now you can have this many people, they can be in for this amount of time, yada, yada. When did you guys start to feel like you had your feet under you, and it was like, okay, we're donut shop owners, we've got this? Like, it didn't feel so chaotic.
I don't think we feel that yet, do we?
Okay.
I don't know. How do you think?
I would say our feet kind of started to touch the ground in 23, because 2020 through 2022 is a shit show.
Yeah,
that's pretty much the best way to describe it. And not only everything going on in our personal lives, but then trying to run a business through COVID. The issues of staffing in those years was horrendous, to say the least.
Brutal.
And then we had to close for a month.
Oh, that's right. We had a lot. So I felt so sorry for Porky Butts. We had another business in our building that caused a sewage backup. We had to close for 3 months.
Yep. And then
I didn't know how we were going to eat again.
And then we had to close because at that time we did, somebody got COVID, we closed, and then during that, some people quit.
We lost a lot of staff. We had nobody to.
Yeah,
we had to quit for a whole month and rehire. Channel 3 covered that.
Yep.
We still have 2 of our employees from that coverage.
Yep. So yeah, and then on top of all that, there's the rising costs of everything in that time period. And at the end of 22, we finally had a chance to look at the books in detail, and we're like, well, we're not making money.
Literally, he looked at the books and he goes, "Mom,
this is unsustainable.
We're no wonder
money.
You're using your savings and to make payroll and all this because you're not charging enough, Mom."
Yeah, so we were scared because in order to get back on track, our costs and our labor costs have increased so much from just 2020 to the start of 2023. We had to raise our prices about 40%, and going from December it being this price and January to it being this price, that's not an easy, that's a hard one.
I almost had a heart attack. I said, I'll be out of business, Jack. And he goes, "Mom, you're going to be out of business if you don't."
Yeah, I was like, we either do it or we don't. And you struggled with that a lot.
Oh,
I was like,
internalized.
I thought it would be all right, because especially at that time, there was a lot of sentiment for local businesses. People in Omaha want to keep us around. Mm-hmm. Not us specifically, but just
small business.
Small business. So we I think we put a post out there basically explaining, why.
I felt
if you come back, donuts are going to be way more expensive.
To know why. I needed to explain myself. I felt an obligation to.
And yeah, after that, first 3 months of 2023 was relief, financially, and not so much on like personal and business end, but it definitely helps. So
it helped us retain our crew and pay our crew what they deserved. Mm-hmm. It gave us breathing room to help them, because without them, we don't exist. It takes a team. And I was so disturbed that I really believe in taking care of those employees financially and wage-wise and whatever we can do. And I felt so much better after you did that, made that decision, and we did that together. I was able to give raises. I felt so good. I could sleep at night. I still don't think, I think we've just found our feet in the last year personally.
Yeah, I'd say
but maybe that's
really
personal. That's more like I've been able to sleep. like a normal 8 hours once in a while. I think it's still evolving, but it's definitely in a good place for sure.
I'm very happy to hear that. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys have obviously had a lot that you've had to go through, and I'm not going to pretend like I even know 10% of the story. I mean, what we just touched on in the last 20 minutes, I'm sure that could be expanded. But when you look back and you think about 5 years and where this thing has come from and the struggles that you guys have had to go through and how you've stayed together, what is the most rewarding thing about what you've created with Square Donut?
You go first, Jack.
Oh boy. I would say, to me, it's the growth of like every aspect of it, not only the business itself financially, but just the growth in myself and the people around me and our employees. I have enjoyed seeing that a lot. So that's probably
The reward for me is I'm helping people be the best versions of themselves. It's almost unrelated to the business. I'm seeing employees discover themselves, whether they stay with me or not. They're growing. I've seen you develop. I see customers who have grown with us, their kids. I see, again, through the eyes of people, the reward is spreading love, spreading education, spreading tolerance, grace, patience. And the vehicle for that is Square Donut. That's how I see it.
I love that.
oh yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I off topic but adjacent. This saying, watching people's kids grow up with us. There's a international bakery expo in Vegas every 2 years, I think it is.
Yeah.
I was there this year. She couldn't make it.
I tore my meniscus. Couldn't travel.
But as I was walking through the hall of all these bakery equipment companies, some guy started talking to me, and I had my little name tag on. It has my name and Square Donut in Omaha. He looks at it. He goes, "You're with Square Donut?" And complete random stranger. I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I get my kids' birthday donuts from you guys every year. I live in Omaha." Yep.
That's incredible.
And I was like, what a coincidence. So
that's when you reflect, isn't it, Jack? Like,
yeah.
It takes somebody to say something for us to think back.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I thought
cool.
that was cool.
Again, it's that even 1 minute interaction, just having a human moment with somebody can totally change perspective. Okay, I got one more question for you guys, and this is so different from what we've been discussing the last 20 minutes. This is on the very lighter side.
Okay.
But in 2024, you guys started doing something called, periodically, it's not all the time, but Donuts After Dark. Who came up with that? What is Donuts After
All
Dark?
him. Everything was him.
So the idea kind of came from the fact that we don't offer hot, fresh donuts ever. You know, even if you come in at 6 a.m., they're not going to be hot, like right out of the fryer. I know I've had interactions with customers where they have wished that, whether they haven't said it directly, or I've had some customers that are like, "Oh, well, I wish they were hot." I'm like, well, you know.
Go home and microwave it, my guy.
Yeah.
Throw it in the air fryer.
But I was like, you know, thinking of our process and how we make our donuts at night, I was thinking, you know, the time frame of when our very, very first donuts come out of the fryer, you know, that's not late enough at night to where people wouldn't still be, you know, awake or, you know,
Asleep
wanting
yeah.
to go out and get a donut. So we kind of came up with Donuts After Dark.
He did. He's not taking enough credit.
Yeah, and the whole concept is our crew comes in a little bit earlier, and that whole first batch that we did basically was just all hot glazed donuts. And we timed it to where the people coming through the door, you know, for every person that comes through the door, a dozen donuts is coming out of the fryer, basically.
Quite literally. It was so hot, the bottom of the box was hot.
Yeah. And because I wanted to give customers that experience, because you got to try a donut right out of the fryer when you came and visited us a few weeks ago. And it's very different. Like, our donuts are good, when they're room temp, after a few hours after they've been decorated. But right out of the fryer is just unbeatable. And our customers haven't experienced our donuts that way. And I wanted to give them that. So.
And then I sink my teeth into that idea. And I'm like, marketing.
Yep.
So I get really excited. I'm like, we need a song, we need a reel, we need something to touch the hearts of people. And we brought in 316 Strategy Group for this because I didn't have time. He thought of the song, the
Hello Darkness.
Hello Darkness song.
Yep.
And we worked with 316 to put our spin and vision that we want on this. It was phenomenal.
Yep.
Massively received. Unbelievable. We sold out in an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Line clear down the strip mall. Unbelievable. Worked like a charm.
Yep. So, yeah, we do plan on them in the future. We don't have a set date. We wanted to do one this year, but things got a little
sideways
away from us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we will be bringing them back.
Yeah, 100%.
People, I'm telling you, like, and yeah, any business owner is going to tell you, yeah, when the product is most hot and fresh, it's incredible. I'm telling you this in complete honesty. I think I saw like new colors when I tried that donut right out of the fryer. Like, it was so good. That is not just the best donut I've had. That's like one of the best sweet things I've had in my entire life. So follow Square Donut on social media and watch like a hawk, because if they put another Donuts After Dark on, you need to experience that donut hot. But the awesome thing is, as great as it is out of the fryer, you can get a fantastic donut and a great experience anytime you go into Square Donut. Whatever my recommendation is worth, these guys 100% have it. If you haven't had a Square Donut, change that about yourself and go try it. Elizabeth and Jack, thank you so much for your incredibly hard work to bring this to Omaha, and specifically for taking some time to come on the podcast today.
Thanks for the opportunity to share, Dan. We always enjoy talking to you, and we appreciate what you do for small business, so thank you.
Absolutely. You'll have to come back in 2 or 3 years and we can talk some more.
Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.